That's insane to me. That's absurd.
It feels too good to be true that Disney's going to let you.
I don't agree with you, and here's why. It is so not Disney. I'm a little nervous now.
Hey y'all, it's LJ here, owner and founder of Smart Moms Plan Disney and Smart Moms Travel. We are so glad you're here for another episode of the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast. Now, here's your host, Allie.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast. We are working our way through our Mega Sevens episodes as we break down each and every one of those 7 dwarves, identifying the things you need to know to plan the perfect Walt Disney World vacation. I, of course, am your host, Allie, joined today by Stacy and Becki.
Hey,
Hi, guys.
Hi, ladies.
And we today are going to be tackling the sneeziest episode of them all. Taking that sneezy dwarf, thinking about kind of things you avoid and reasons you're not booking your Disney vacation. I am excited to break this topic down because I think we are going to take the opportunity right now to debunk some myths, talk through some common misconceptions, and really dissect reasons that people think are things they should, should be keeping them from booking their trip, but we know better.
Yeah, we definitely know that there are a lot of reasons to not go on vacation, but there are so many reasons to get over those things to make it happen.
I love the way you said that because there are always a million reasons not to go on any vacation. And when you put the spotlight on Walt Disney World, it becomes even more so. You have even more factors that for someone that may have never been, someone that hasn't been in a very long time, maybe you went as a kiddo with your family, but you weren't involved on the planning end. There are just so many things that people think this is what a Disney vacation is, or this is what Disney vacation planning is. And some of those things, quite honestly, are scary sounding. I could see why somebody would maybe avoid booking a vacation if you thought these things were true.
I agree. And I think that complicated piece and it feeling overwhelming is probably one of those big reasons that people avoid it so much.
Yeah, I think we are definitely in a world of excuse making. We all kind of have our own things of why, like I had to really talk myself into going to a walk this morning, we're in a culture of doing the things that are easy. And sometimes I'm guilty of this myself. Like if it seems too hard, I just don't want to do it. So maybe today we can make things seem not so hard when it comes to Disney. Because obviously, whoever is listening to this podcast right now has an affection for Disney. They want to hear about and experience Disney at least through our experiences. But if there are some things holding them back, let's see if we can talk them out, talk these things out and make it a little more encouraging for them to go ahead and give it a try.
Yeah, that's so well said, Stacy. I made my list here because if you've been following along in these dwarf episodes that we've been putting out, we've all been coming with our list of 7 things and kind of together compiling the ultimate 7, reasons why or things to do depending on each episode. And today we really are going to try to break down and figure out what are those main 7 reasons that people are avoiding, or as you said, Stacy, excuse making. And I'm really hoping and excited that at the end of this conversation, we can, like I said earlier, just debunk some of that. These things that we're going to talk through, I'm sure some people do look at as scary things or intimidating things. And while some of it really can be, we are the most versed people to really help you understand why it's not. And you're right, Stacy. Anybody listening either is about to go to Disney or wants to go to Disney or can't figure out how to go to Disney. There's some sort of relationship to Disney for all of you, our listeners, and us. And whatever that relationship is, you're somewhere in that process. And we're going to help you get closer.
Sounds good.
All right. So I'm excited to break these lists down to get your perspectives, both of you, as to why you think people are not booking their Disney vacation. And then, of course, I know the approach I took. I was looking at it really from the travel agent point of view, the things that when I'm talking to families that want to go, or maybe they're in that dreamy phase of, gosh, I would love this. And thinking about some of the things that I'm able to talk through with, real families that I help book their trips to Disney. And that's kind of the approach I took. Is that similar to what you all did?
Well, I was kind of looking at it, sympathetically with families who do really want to go. There's something that's a struggle. There's something that, I don't want to diminish that could be a hard time for some people, and that there may be really real circumstances that make it difficult for them. And I just want to be encouraging in that sense. So I guess that's where I was, just kind of being sympathetic to real things I've heard real people say as to why they either can't go, and I do have a couple on here where I've talked to people who are like, I don't want to go, but I don't know that they're listening to our podcast. So.
What about you, Beck?
I think it's similar. I was thinking about it in terms of being a travel agent and what I hear from people that I'm talking about. But I also think about it in terms of myself. In my past self, I would say I'm finding myself getting over these things. I have a tattoo that says fearless, and it's my reminder that I can't let fear be determining what I'm doing in life. I talked about on one of our episodes previously, I think it was the spring break episode, about my fear that was driving my inability to get into the shark tank at Typhoon Lagoon, and facing those fears and just jumping in and embracing that adventure. And so recognizing that there were things in my past that fear has guided me in choices I was making, and I don't want to be that. And I also don't want that to be the situation for my friends, my clients. I want them to understand that it doesn't have to be fearful. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be complicated. And we're here to support them.
I love that. Yeah, let's take the fear out of it a little bit today. Okay, I think I want to hear, Stacy, one of your reasons why.
Okay.
Why do you think people aren't booking? What do you have?
Okay, well, let's just go chronologically here. Let's listen to some complaints that I have heard about people who went to Disney in the past. Like maybe they went on a high school band trip, or maybe they went when, this is me, when Epcot first opened. And I'm going to be honest with you, as nostalgic as I am for a lot of things, as a child who went to Epcot when it first opened, it was a little boring. There wasn't a lot of the Disney magic over there in Epcot quite yet. And I was not as drawn to it. So if I judged today's Disney experience with that one experience that I had back in the 80s, it might be tempting to say, nah, that's not for me. So for anyone who has maybe just a past negative Disney experience, I just want to encourage from the angle of there's so much new and so much good, and the technology that's come along, even with crowd control. Some of the past experiences people might have with, man, I went and it was so hot and it was so crowded and it was so miserable and all we did was stand in line all day. Those types of problems from the past we've made huge advancements, and a lot of them have solutions now. So I guess that's the first one I'd like to do, is just past negative experiences.
I like that one. So you're saying basically not learning from a dopey mistake, maybe you planned a crowded time or a hot time, and not learning from something that maybe has dampened an experience you had at
Right.
Walt Disney World, or maybe even just the fact that it wasn't as progressed as it is now, even though it's always been, state of the art for the times. Obviously,
Sure.
today we have things that are so far beyond anything any of us experienced as kids.
Sure. I
We
mean, and
talked.
there were times like standing in line, before there was fast passes and before there was Genie Plus, like there's definitely some experiences of, yeah, standing in line for a long, long part of your day, but there were also maybe only 4 big attractions you were going to go to for your whole trip. So it was fine to spend a couple of hours in line. And I've had some small experiences like that in different, like going with the church group and these different things, and it wasn't quite as organized, and it wasn't as magical as what I have experienced the majority of the time. So if anybody's had like a one-time experience that was negative in their past, my encouragement is, all right, let's regroup, let's rethink this thing, get you a nice travel agent to talk with you through it all.
Yeah.
and let's look at what kind of things were negative for you and see if there some some positive ways of looking at that now.
I really like this one. It's not on my list at all, but I'm like looking through my list thinking, how can I be creative here and combine things? Because I think this is a smart one because I think people do get a bad taste very quickly, you know? Just it becomes easy to say, well, I'm not doing that again. And even though most of my experiences at Disney World are extremely positive, there are plenty of people that have found themselves in a circumstance. I'm glad you mentioned large group trips, right? I went with my dance company in high school. We actually performed at the Tomorrowland stage they used to have in Magic Kingdom, and we got to perform there, similar to how bands get to march in Main Street, things like that. And it was such a great experience. We stayed at the All-Star Resorts together, and we got to go to all of the parks, and that was wonderful. But I had been several times with my family at that point, and had I not been, I could see where the experience would have been a little bit overwhelming in a way that maybe could have made me a little bit more weary of booking another.
Right.
I have one on my list that is similar to this. Not exactly how you're explaining it, but Stacy, I love how you're approaching this, thinking about previous experiences. So one that I had written down was that I've already been to Disneyland. Why do I need to go to Disney World? Or I've already gone on a Disney cruise. Why do I need to go to Disney World? Like feeling like you've already done it and you don't need to do it again. Like we know lots of people have that one and done Disney trip, but every single trip, even me as somebody who's going every single month, like we're going to Disney on the regular, every single experience is different, and every single experience has a different kind of magic depending on who you're going with and what the situation is from one trip to the next.
It could not be more true. Every trip is different. And every trip I get so excited because I know, people say, I'm sure to both of you, just like they do to me, you're going to Disney again.
Yeah.
Just, and they say it in the way that, oh, you've already done that. And I love the way you phrase that, Becki. No, I haven't done this. I haven't done this trip. And there are always more things to see and do. And there are always more things to experience. And trust me, there are always more memories to be made. And we never leave with the same ones. And so I really like this. And I think we could almost combine it and say, not learning from a past Disney experience or having an I've already been there mentality.
That's good.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
That one evolved nicely. Yeah, it's not a one and done thing. I understand a lot of people. I mean, how many families do we work with that say this is going to be a one and done trip? And then how many times do they get back and say, okay, when can we go again? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very few times is Disney actually going to be a one and done experience. I believe that to be true.
Totally.
Okay, I love that. So you each kind of gave one in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give what I feel is a pretty obvious one that I think you both probably have on your list and is something we've definitely talked about, but I don't think you could ever talk too much about this because I think it's a huge misconception is people aren't booking their trip to Disney World because they just think it's too expensive.
Yep. That's definitely on my list.
Yep, on my list as well. I hear that so often. Like, I don't have $10,000 to go to Disney World. Like 10,000 seems to be that number that so many people have stuck in their head, like that Disney has to cost $10,000, and it so does not have to cost $10,000.
No. And the thing I always tell people is it certainly can cost $10,000. It absolutely does not have to cost $10,000. And we have done I think a really great job on this show talking about every perspective that Disney has to offer, right? We're talking about the different resorts and the way that they can be accommodating for budgets and the lengths of trips and the times of year that you may go and the different factors that are going to weigh in on your grand total there at the end that's going to come up with that number for you. I'm fairly confident that you can give me any budget and I can help you get there. We may have to really think about when it's going to be, how long it's going to be, how much time we have to plan. We may need to talk through those details, but chances are 9 times out of 10, it's not going to end up being too expensive.
I want to speak from the perspective of, times can be hard for a lot of people right now. Like we know the economy is not the best it's ever been, and there are real financial struggles. And I can speak from having a large family, trying to raise kids with, with a single income family. I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. I'm still consider myself a stay-at-home mom now that I am working full time from home. But there have been times where I wasn't bringing in any kind of paycheck. And so times have been tough. And yet we really made it a priority to have a Disney trip on the books every few years, right? We had it as we knew that it was going to take time to build up the money that we needed for that trip, but it was always something that we wanted to do. We prioritized that type of savings. And we have definitely, I'll even tell you, we had a Roach Motel experience, like we went down, and I don't necessarily recommend this, but we did go down and did the Roach Motel idea, and it was still a great time just because we were driving back and forth to Disney. We still kind of point out that hotel when the little motel we drove by, when we drive by it now. We're like, yep, remember when we stayed there. But the point being that, and I even remember it being in tears, like, I hope this isn't the last trip we ever take. It was so great, and not really knowing what money was going to look like in the future, but we still prioritized it. And it would take years sometimes of savings. And that's what's really awesome about, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, very specifically about how Disney is so fantastic. Now, they probably don't want us to say how much shifting stuff around they'll do because it's probably a lot of work for them. But Disney is so fantastic in helping and being flexible with what you need. So if you put your money down and you need to make a change because of something that's come up financially or whatever, you can move your dates. If you're like, I'm not going to have enough money to pay this off by this date, well, let's extend it out a little farther and give yourself some time. There are things like that. Just the idea of being able to put a $200 deposit down and make payments in whatever form or size you can do, you have that freedom. There's not like a minimum payment that's due every month. It's so flexible and so helpful in those types of ways that you really don't see with a lot of other vacation options.
So we agree, all of us, that thinking that it's too expensive is a reason that people aren't booking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because Stacy just shed some light on a couple of other things that are actually on my list here. Becki, did she touch any of the things on your list?
She did. Yep.
Yeah. So do you want to pivot into a new one, Becki? Because I bet you're going to say the same thing I would say. And we can break down a little bit more about what Stacy was just getting into.
I definitely can. I think that I have a ton of different ones that it touched on.
Me too.
Oh, sorry about that.
I thought,
no, I think it's great.
Sorry. It's what it is. All of these things are kind of compounded one after another. And I think it really is the conversation that people have with themselves. It's giving themselves 15 different reasons why taking the trip just doesn't make sense. But honestly, making the memories and just not regretting time passing and wishing you would have done it when you had the time to do it is the reason to not let those excuses get in the way, right?
Yeah. And Stacy, I'm glad you started to mention some of them, because in my head, I'm thinking, okay, yes, I wrote all of these down, and it really feels like a snowball effect. It's all of these things that are going on in the head of someone that's wanting this trip that feels unattainable. And as that snowball rolls and grows bigger, we're able to really roll it back and say, no. This is what's real. This is what's true. This is how this actually works. I'm glad that you touched on it. And Becki, give us one.
Okay. So this is kind of a broad one, but I'm speaking to it from firsthand perspective. I'm going to call it anxiety. Anxiety about crowds, about costs, about me being a plus size mom and not feeling like, am I going to be able to fit within all of the rides and feel like I can be a part of what my family's going through? Anxiety of fear, of heights, of spinning, like all of those things that just get in our head about why it's not going to be a good experience. And recognizing, just like Stacy was just saying, Disney knows how to take care of their people. I have never felt like I didn't fit exactly where my family was. I've never felt like Disney was excluding me in any way for any reason, whether it's about, I'm nervous about crowds. My daughter has some generalized anxiety that goes with her ADHD, and her feeling like she can love Disney, even with those things gnawing at her, and me being, like I said, being a plus size mom. And am I nervous when I'm going to go climb on Space Mountain? Yes, I am, but I still do it. And I still get off that ride with like the most adrenaline pumping through my body, making the most amazing memories, listening to my husband belly laugh behind me on the ride. Like all of those things, while those fears and those anxieties can really gnaw at us, Disney knows how to take care of their people.
Yeah, I have this one written on my list as thinking it's just too overwhelming.
Mhm.
And not knowing the dates. You know, how many people that aren't familiar with Disney know that you have to have your sit down dining reservations made 60 days out from your trip? You know, and once you start to hear these rumors, once you start to hear, well, my daughter's not going to be able to be made over as a princess if I don't schedule it 60 days out. And while
Mhm.
there is a layer of truth to that, it can be a crippling thought. You can easily, we have so many things. You know, my twins just started kindergarten, and the first week of school was just normal, welcome back, we're so excited to have you. And then the second and third weeks of school were, it's adorable, I love it, but it's called our colorful kindergarten days. And every single day, times two, because I have twins, is a different color that they
Mhm.
wear to school.
Mhm.
And we're also, my family is moving. So we're in the middle of a big move, the biggest we've ever had and will ever have. And add the layer of now we have the colorful kindergarten days, which adorable, but also now I need to plan for that. And I'm packing my kids' clothes and I need to make sure that the yellow things are out and the pink things are out, you know, times two. And then there's their activities. There are so many things going on in my head as a mom, my own work, my own planning, my own organizing, all of that for my kids. The things I just mentioned, you're running here, you're running there. Now add the thought of planning a vacation that doesn't feel like it's going to be relaxing. You're going to run. You're going to want to put your hands up and run and say that's way too overwhelming for the phase of life I'm in. And I can totally see where that mentality would come from, honestly, because planning Disney is complicated. The difference is that it's not too complicated. It's not
Mhm.
too complicated to do. And with a travel agent, like you mentioned, Stacy, it's not complicated at all.
Right.
I think it's a really good one. And I think that's Stacy, do you have that one on your list?
Yeah, I had it just wording it as anxieties is a perfect way of doing it. I did not make it that concise, but yes, I think that there are a lot of things that people just they think they don't like, but they don't understand that that's not what's there.
Right.
If that
Yeah.
makes sense. You know, it's just that fear and that anxiety of predicting what the worst case scenario can be, or just the idea of I don't know how to do this, you know, it can be crippling.
I want to point out just a little humanizing fact with the three of us that are on this call. Allie's sending your babies to kindergarten this month, and Stacy has her youngest starting senior year, and I have my oldest starting senior year. And we all have anxieties around these things, and these could all be reasons that we're like, you know, we're just too busy, we're too whatever that excuse is. But honestly, where I'm feeling it right now is I'm so thankful for the memories that I've made with my Macy. My Macy is my senior, but I also am like, it's crunch time. I really need to make sure that I'm prioritizing this year, like my time to make memories with her. And we're all just kind of in this life going through it together, and nobody on the listening to this episode in particular, I'm sure they have their own kinds of things that are weighing on them, and we all feel those and we all recognize them. But Disney is doable, and there is so much magic, even in spite of all of those things that are giving us those day-to-day worries.
Yeah.
That's
I
so
think that's
good.
perfect. I knew all of ours were going to overlap in this because these are the cliches. This episode is all sort of embracing and then, you know, tearing apart the cliches in this sense. So we already have three really solid ones. Several off my list we've already discussed, which I'm very
Mhm.
excited about.
Mhm.
I really hope that people are digesting this information and thinking, okay, yes, I am running 1 million miles an hour and I still can have this. So I'm excited. I think we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to continue to build our list of the reasons we know you are not booking your Disney vacation. Hey, Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast listeners. Have you joined our online communities yet? You can find us on Facebook and on Instagram at Smart Moms Plan Disney Podcast, where we're connecting daily with listeners, answering questions, and sharing our favorite Disney memories. Joining one of our communities, especially on Facebook, is like pulling up your own chair and joining the conversation yourself. Why let Tuesday be the only day you hear from us? Come join us to continue episode conversations, or maybe even tell us if you disagree with something we've said. We're planning trips, offering tips, and ready for you to pull up your chair. So follow the links in our show notes and join us at Smart Moms Plan Disney Podcast on Facebook and on Instagram. All right, everyone, welcome back. We are working our way right on through talking the sneeziest of them all, the reasons you avoid going to Disney World, why you aren't booking, and why, quite honestly, you are wrong. These things are just not good enough to actually keep you away. But we know that they are, so hopefully we can make a little dent in that thinking today. So far on our list, we have not learning from a past Disney experience or having an I've already been there mentality, thinking it's too expensive, and thinking that the planning is just too overwhelming. We feel good about that so far?
So
Yeah.
far, so good.
Okay, I have another one I'm going to throw in because we've already touched on it a lot with one of the things that's on our list, plus just in discussion. So I know it's going to continue to naturally come up. So I want to go ahead and throw this one out there. Stacy already mentioned some of it. Not understanding the flexibility of the money and the payments when it comes to Disney. Things like it is a $200 deposit only. $200 straight to Disney. That money is, are you ready? Fully refundable until your final payment date. So you're basically saying, here's $200, save up however long it takes to save up $200 for your family. Think about that number. Don't think, oh, I have to save, $2,500 for this trip. No, 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 no. I need to save $200. You put your $200 down, your trip is secure. Period. Then, Stacy, as you mentioned, the flexibility in the payment plan is unreal. LJ was mentioning she just went to Europe and she made a mistake booking an Airbnb in one of, I can't remember where, maybe London. And when she realized she messed up and booked it for the wrong day, she was just out of that money. That is normal thinking. That's normal for a vacation. That is very abnormal for a Disney vacation. You put down your $200. If things need to change, that money is refundable. If we need to move it, as Stacy mentioned, we can. They're going to make sure that your trip is adaptable to you, what you're feeling comfortable with, where you are. That makes booking way less stressful, way less overwhelming, way less of a commitment, honestly. It's like break that ice. It's the hardest thing to push book. Break the ice and book it, and then start to really get into the nitty-gritty and plan it. And also, as Stacey mentioned, no payments are due along the way. It's not like every month you have to pay $50 or $100 or a percentage. It's just due 30 days before travel. So that's nice. It's just in the back of your mind as it can be. And as travel agents, we're constantly watching for promotions that Disney is constantly dropping. And so Disney will price drop. If you book a package and it costs this much money and now a new promotion drops it by $700, guess what? You get that savings.
Yeah,
Oh.
that is such a huge point to make. Like some people may, I don't know why, but because I love to plan ahead, but I do know that there are people who don't like to plan ahead. But for
Right.
me, I want to know what I'm doing next year already.
Yeah.
And so it's not a big deal for me to look forward and say, okay, I want to go on this date. In fact, we already have a 2025, we've had a 2025 trip planned since 2020 because we plan our trips in 5-year increments, our big giant multi-family trip. And there are no discounts available for a 2025 trip. In fact, you can't even book a 2025 trip. However, I know that as soon as I have a deposit down and I'm starting to pay on a trip, if a discount comes where it's going to lower the price, I can still get that. So
Yeah, I've saved my family so much money after booking. And it's like there's no reason to wait because it only costs you $200 to secure your spot and you can always get the lower rate.
Right.
Waiting to book means that you could be subject to price increases.
Exactly. Or not being able to get what you want at all.
Yeah,
Like if
right.
you have a specific, like you want to stay in a certain resort in a certain type of room, you better get on it early if it really matters to you, because the longer you wait, the less likely it is to be available.
Yeah.
That availability is a big piece of that conversation. When you brought up LJ making that mistake when she was booking her Europe, when we went to Europe as well, we went to Sagrada Familia, which is the cathedral in Barcelona. And do you guys know that in Europe their calendar does not start on Sunday?
No.
It starts on
not.
it starts on Monday, and then Saturday, Sunday is the weekend. And so we booked Sagrada our tickets and we were going to show up, and they're like, this is for tomorrow. And I'm like, what? And so exactly, that is being able to be flexible with your Disney and know that you can book it in advance and move it. And can we just say happiness that comes from the little celebration email that you get when you have that confirmation number, like,
Right?
oh my gosh, the happiness that just that little piece, knowing that even if it's not next week, even if it's not next month, it's 2 years away or whatever it is that we're doing, that happiness that comes from knowing that it's on the calendar gives you such grace as a mom. Like, we now have something we're working towards.
Yeah, something tangible. This is real. We are working toward this. And I guarantee you have a date in mind that you want to go and it's not bookable yet through Disney. Just go ahead and reach out to your Smart Moms travel agent. We'll be able to help you. We know the ways to get you working towards something. There are always ways to do what you want to do. And, I booked our family spring break trip for this coming year. And now it's getting a little bit closer now that we've especially started the new school year. But when we booked it, Becki, you're so right. I got that email and it just feels so like big hallelujah chorus, singing, and it feels so far away. And I just can imagine that by the time we get there, the time will pass, it will come, and it will have been worth it to have booked it when I did. I am very much of the mindset, throw your $200 at this because you're really not throwing it out. You can get it back if you really need to.
Mm-hmm.
But you're
That's right.
locking in something great for your family, and you're doing it with very, very low risk and low commitment.
Do you guys ever get the what's the catch, or is this a scam from because it feels too good to be true that Disney's going to let you reserve your tickets. Like right now we have to have park reservations, so you can even get your park reservations. All of those things with $200 that they 100% will give back if needed up until that 30 days before check-in.
It's actually amazing.
It really
I can't believe it doesn't have a catch.
And the fact that we're travel agents help you through all of this, and you don't have to pay us something additional. Like, it's the exact same as what you're going to get by booking through Disney. Like, how is this a thing?
Yeah, it's really great. Disney makes it so easy. They really, really do. Okay, that's a great one. I think, we agree that that's got to go on the list.
Yeah.
Not understanding the low booking risk. And what that means is the flexibility in payments, the low minimum refundable deposit, price drop comparisons, things like that.
I think that you saying low risk makes me think low risk, high reward. Holy cow. Getting the memories for such a small moment, and the happiness.
Yep, love it. Okay, great. Who's up? Let's see, Stacy?
Well, let's see. I think I hear some of it is that people, and it's another excuse that they have other people that they're going to travel with. Like I've been talking to my sister and we're wanting to go down there, but her kids are this and they can't do that. And, and there's just always this excuse with scheduling. And sometimes that makes us just keep delaying and getting other people on board. And I'm not here to break up any family situations. However, just go. If you don't have the people with you that want to go, you schedule it for yourself. And then if FOMO hits them bad enough, they'll join in with you. But I'm just encouraging people that don't let other people dictate whether or not you get to go and have fun. You do what you need to do for your family, and hopefully it doesn't become a problem with your family to leave them behind. But I just want to encourage those who might be allowing other circumstances to delay what your family gets to do. Just don't let that happen.
I have this on mine as well, but in a little bit different. And maybe this is a different spin than what you're meaning, Stacy, but I have that spouse and or whoever isn't on board or isn't going to like it. And so they're not going because somebody is holding them back.
Yeah. No, that's definitely the angle I'm going from. That's great. That's worded very well.
I do not have this on my list, but it is a really good one. I would even add to this conversation, and this is hard for me to say because my wife and I do everything together. And so this isn't necessarily an approach that I relate to, but I think it is a relatable thing and it should be valued, is if you really want to take your kiddos to Disney World and your spouse doesn't want to go, still go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know.
It may not be everybody's cup of tea, and I think that's okay. And I think you're exactly right. There's nothing wrong with that. And you should never, if these are memories you want to make with your kids, if your mom and dad doesn't want to go, or if your dad and mom doesn't want to go, or your mom and mom doesn't want to go, whatever your family makeup is, and the other parent doesn't want to go, or the other adult doesn't want to go, still go.
I think that in that conversation, it's such a two sides to every story, right? In that situation, there is one person who's holding everybody back in that situation. But also, like, they're choosing that they don't want to go and stopping everybody from being able to go. But in the same sense, you only get one life. You only get your kids for so long. And so you have to make the decision of, is their choice or your choice going to be what you are going to be regretting come 10 years, 20 years from now?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm a little nervous now because I have 3 left on my list that I really believe in, and we already have 5 on our list here.
Oh no, I have 2 still.
Okay, how many do you have left, Stacy?
I have 2 as well.
Oh no, I might have to get creative. Okay, I have 3, so I'll start. And this one might be able to be, because Becki, you touched on this, so I guess we could combine it if needed, but I have this one as its own thing because I felt like it needed highlighted on its own. But it is thinking you won't enjoy your time if you don't ride. So touching on to those motion sickness thoughts, fear of heights, fear of thrills, I can't ride 3D. Becki, you mentioned I can't ride spinning, things like that, and thinking that there's nothing for you at Disney World if you don't do the attractions.
Mhm.
And I think that stops people more than we may even realize. And I think that's really, really unfortunate because the things I love most about Disney are not the rides, except for, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
But outside of that, it's really not the rides. And so I think there is an I don't ride things mentality. And so I'm not going to Disney World. And I think that's a huge, huge error in judgment.
Yeah, and this is one of mine that motion sickness is a very real part of my Disney experience. There are things I cannot ride because of motion sickness. There are other things I have begun to be able to ride in recent years just from experimenting with motion sickness patches and Dramamine and, finding that what works for me. So that I'm thankful for that. But I'm very sympathetic and understanding of those who cannot ride some things. And I'm so glad that this is an opportunity for us to talk about that there's so much more than just the rides at Disney. The festivals at Epcot are a full day of enjoyment, whether you step foot onto any of the rides that day or not. Even being outside of parks is a beautiful experience in itself. Being in the resorts, enjoying the pools, enjoying the
Exactly.
restaurants and the dining there's so much. Don't let your motion sickness or your fear of rides deter you from this awesome vacation.
I think that something that we often get framed in, like, I've already been to Knott's Berry Farm or I've already been to the boardwalk, just thinking that Disney is an amusement park, thinking about it in terms of just being another amusement park. It's a theme park. There is so many shows and interactions and things that you don't even have to step on a ride and you could still have an entire day's worth of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was mentioned in these other smaller local theme parks. I actually kind of had that worded in with one of mine too. So I want to expand on that. If there happens to be anyone who assumes in any way that Disney is like your local theme park, please just get that out of your mind.
Yeah.
If you have been to your local, and I won't name any parks that have banners flying above them or anything. If you've been to those parks and think that that is what you're going to experience at Disney World, please get that out of your mind. The differences are so hugely different.
Yeah, it's not even anything you can almost put into words, although we try on this show for sure. But we actually have an incredible local theme park that is, has a big center monument and it's divided into separate lands and it has really great attractions and it has pretty decent restaurant. Like, it's a great park. It is so not Disney. There's no vibe when you're in there that even touches what you're experiencing when you're at Disney World. So for sure that. Did you all have that on your list as well?
How were you framing it? Tell me the words you were saying.
So for me, it's thinking I won't be able to enjoy if I don't ride.
Yeah. Mine
Yeah,
kind of,
I had a version of that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, mine
With
kind of was
motion
that
sickness for sure.
anxiety piece.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. I think it's a real one as well. And I almost look at it as 2 separate, Becki, and the reason, because I heard you kind of say them together, and the reason I was splitting them is because the overwhelming and anxiety piece to me is all of the preparation that goes into a Disney trip. What do I bring? How do I pack? Where do I eat? All of those things, and just truly not knowing.
I have it down as 2 different things. I have the anxiety piece, and then I also have it as it's too complicated.
Yeah.
And so I think we all have these overlapping things because it's common trends that we're hearing, and you're not alone in feeling these things. But you're missing out on so much if you're letting them be an excuse.
So that brings each of you to one final thing. Is that right?
Yes.
Ish.
Okay. And I have two. And I have two. So we can't round out our list until we know, I think, because let's hear one of the ones you have to leave you with one, and then I'll give
Okay.
mine. We'll take a break and we'll all give our last.
Okay. So one that I hear from people who are near and dear to my life is that Disney is only for kids. It's too childish and fake happiness.
Oh, wow.
I love that. And
Yeah.
it pretty much matches one of the ones I have left. I have thinking your kids are too young or too old.
Mm-hmm. I can
Mm.
say firsthand, like in the too young thing, like Disney is going to have something to hit every single point in your life, whether you are a teeny tiny baby clear up to being elderly and maybe getting to be there with your grandkids or whatever it is. Every single age range can have an amazing trip at Disney. However, there are some other theme parks that is not the case. I'm going to put it out there, like Legoland. If your kiddos are over, say, 10 to 12 years old, you're not going to have an amazing trip at Legoland. If they are 3 years old to 9 or 10 years old, you're going to have an amazing trip. But Disney's able to do every single age magically.
Every
That's
age is
great.
perfect. And
Yeah.
people, to go along with this, because I have thinking your kids are too old or too young, and not knowing that under 3 is free, which we just simply cannot say enough. You're not paying for your babies. You're not paying for your toddlers.
Yeah.
And so there's really not a too young, because there's absolutely an argument to be made as to why the younger the better,
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, just my third grader, my daughter, when I look at pictures of her as a younger girl, because I was going to say as a little girl, she's still a little girl, but when I look at her pictures of her when she was even just a little bit younger than she is now, and I see her baby face, which she's growing out of all of the time, it makes me a little emotional. It's so sad when we see them grow and evolve out of those people. But as a third grader, she's kind of my favorite version of her that she's ever been right now.
Mm-hmm.
She's so relatable. She's so enjoyable. Spending time with her is just so different right now because she's really just holding her own in conversation and in life, and she has opinions and they're interesting. And not that your little ones aren't interesting, but you really do enjoy your kids so differently as they age. Is something I'm learning because my third grader is my oldest. Is the magic pretty soon going to start to evolve where she's concerned? I mean, she's going to be 9. So yes, I anticipate that some things will start changing and evolving where the magic is concerned. But I also really anticipate a new kind of fun with her in the parks.
Absolutely.
And so I agree. Yeah, there's no too old, there's no too young. It's just about your family. It's just about the time that you spend with them. So that's a grave mistake.
It really, really is. And when I hear that fake happiness piece, that really, really about kills me to hear, because the day to day, we have such incredible stresses about our kids. Like, are they going to be picked on at school? Are they going to have to be put in a lockdown drill? Like, these are real things that we stress about as mamas. And we go to Disney and those things get to be checked at the door, right?
Yeah,
we get to check out.
Why does anybody get to call happiness fake? That's insane to me. That's absurd. My family is truly so genuinely happy when we are within Disney property. We just are. We're so much more carefree. We are checked out. It's great.
And I tell you, the phones that can be so annoying in day-to-day life with our kids, like put down your phone. At Disney, now it's always us having to be on our phones more with Genie Plus, etc.
Yeah.
But my kids, their phones are away. Like, they might get it out every once in a while for pictures, but really not a lot. In fact, I kind of am surprised at the end of a trip. I'm like, hey, send me any good pictures you have. And they're like, well, I didn't really take any. And I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Because
I'm
their
actually
phones
fine with
are
it.
up. And it's an amazing thing. That's really one of the more precious things about having taken my children. And when we all get together, is their phones are up and we're just enjoying each other. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. And I want to add a little piece to that. You mentioned, we're on our phones for Genie and such, but I even think that can be a stressor. It's not for the list or anything, but people are really intimidated thinking, I'm going to be on my phone all the time. Why is it like this? But in reality, I mean, only one of us, we're all heading to Disney together here soon for the big Smart Moms. That's our agency that we work for conference. We're all going to be hundreds of agents meeting together in Disney World. And what is it really going to look like if we get a Genie Plus selection? One of us pulling our phone out for 30 seconds every 2 hours.
Right,
It's not really that terrible. It's not terrible at all, quite frankly, and so that's just those things. That's just another misconception that people just think, well, I have to be looking at my phone all day. You don't. Set an alarm, hop on, get your selection, you're done. It takes 30 seconds.
And being on your phone for 30 seconds to get your Genie Plus is so much better than making somebody run across the park to go get the paper fast
the good old
passes.
days.
Yeah, at least we get to stay together and not, run a marathon.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I have memories of that are just
Lord.
hysterical. Goodness gracious.
Okay, so we actually have 7 things on our list. We each have 1 thing remaining. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're all going to say our final piece, and then we're going to figure out how to put our list together, because this has been really good time spent debunking and putting people's thoughts in their place, because you don't need to stress as much as you're stressing. And booking a Disney trip can actually help with that stress, contrary to what you might believe. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to finish this up.
Hey there, friends. I'm Katie Boone, one of your podcast co-hosts. I'd love to invite you to join my Facebook Disney planning community called Planning Disney with Babies, Toddlers, and Preschoolers. In my group, I love discussing all the aspects of planning your magical vacation with little ones. Find my community at facebook.com/groups/Plan Disney with Little Ones. Again, that's facebook.com/groups/Plan Disney with Little Ones. When you join, don't forget to tell me you heard about my group on the podcast. See you there.
Hey, it's Becki from Smart Moms Podcast. So you keep hearing this word, Disney bounding, but maybe you don't know quite what it means. Or maybe you're already a Disney bounder and love showcasing your Disney fandom in the parks. Either way, come join us on Facebook at the Disney Bounding Community by Smart Moms Travel. We play games, plan outfits, do giveaways and challenges, and support each other in adding just a little bit of pixie dust to both your Disney vacations as well as your day-to-day. Find the link in the show notes, and I hope to see you soon in the Disney Bounding Community Facebook group.
All right, we are back. We have made it our mission here to make a list of the top 7 reasons you are not booking your Disney vacation. Problem is, we have 7 things on our list and we each have 1 remaining. So we need to make some decisions here. Before we do, I want to remind all of our listeners that coming up very soon, our dopiest episode of them all, we need your help. We're going to be doing a mailbag. We are going to want to read your silly mistakes. Maybe you went to Disney World. Maybe there was something you didn't know that you think other people could really learn from and it could change their trip. Maybe it was something that made your family kind of angry in the moment, but you laugh about it now. We want all of it. We want to laugh at your expense on air. We want to laugh at our own expense. We want to learn from the mistakes of our listeners. Please, please head to the links in our show notes. Find us on social media. Fill out our form for the dopiest of them all. Maybe we'll read your mistake on air. Okay.
It's going to be so funny.
It's going to be great. And some people have already started sending in submissions and I have laughed. They're great. I'm very excited. It's going to be fantastic.
Can't wait.
So don't miss your chance, to be a part of that. Okay. Our list that we have right now has 7 items. They are not learning from a past Disney experience or approaching with an I've already been there mentality. Thinking that a trip to Walt Disney World is too expensive. Thinking that the planning will be just too overwhelming. Not understanding the low booking risk and high reward, letting another person's emotions about it hold you back, thinking that you won't be able to enjoy your experience if you don't ride rides, or thinking that your kids are too old or too young to go. Those are really good things. Those are really legitimate reasons that people think they shouldn't, are reasons they think they shouldn't be booking. And I think we've done a good job explaining why none of those are true.
Those are very concise. Good job.
Thank you. I think we all did it together. All right. Stacy, I am going to turn to you here to give us your last item. We all have 1 left and we need to figure out what we're going to do. What do you have?
Okay. Yeah, I do want your help in wording this, because what I have is that the travel difficulties that are just real. Like airlines these days are so difficult, and not everyone is as fortunate as I am. I am able to drive to Disney World. It is a day's drive, and that is not even appealing to some people. So I know that the airlines and just traveling difficulties that can cause people to not want to go. It is a tough fix. Like we really do have some real concerns with that for everyone. But here's my encouragement in that. The way that you fix it, because it's true, we don't know what kind of headaches we may face in just getting to Disney World. That comes in to planning a rest day with your vacation so that you can have that time, even if you're needing to buffer the front or the back end of your trip with your travel situations. And just the stress of it, having a day in the middle of your vacation to rest. This is just another reminder that real life is tough. That's why we need a vacation.
Right.
So schedule the way that you plan your vacation in a way that will help soothe over some of the reality of stressful travel.
Okay, I like it. I like the idea of thinking that just getting there is too difficult. Becki, thoughts? What do you have?
Thoughts on what Stacy's saying? I think that could maybe fit into the it's too complicated, it's too overwhelming.
That's
That's true.
exactly what I was
That's
thinking.
true.
Yeah.
Yep, that's true.
That's exactly what I'm thinking, but I'm glad you said it because when we were talking about the overwhelming piece, we didn't mention the complexities of getting there. You know, one of our teammates and podcast hosts, Chris lives really far away, all the way like in the top corner of the country in Washington State. So, you know, meeting us in Florida for Disney World is very, very hard for her. She really needs time to plan when she's going to go. She can't just hop there. It takes a long time, takes a lot of strategizing, and so I think it's a legitimate thing. I do think it can be rolled in, but I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and if you're coming from that far corner, like I know Chris, it's not just time, it's also that money, right? That cost to get from one corner, like she's right there on the Canadian border, to the kitty corner area of our country. It's time and money. Yeah, and that's all overwhelming.
All right, what do you have for your last one?
This is very near and dear to my heart because of some things that have happened. One, I talked a little bit about my brother on previous episodes when Allie, you and I were on the Disneyland episode. I have a special needs brother, and also something that I have adult onset food allergies. And with that comes having been in the emergency room and anaphylaxis and being very, very nervous about what I'm eating and being in control of all of that. And so I have that medical needs cannot allow it. And while if there's anywhere on the face of this earth that I feel safe knowing that my allergy needs are getting met, my brother in his wheelchair can still be belly laughing on the Matterhorn like I talked about on that episode. If you have a broken leg that happened the day before you leave on trip, whatever those medical needs are, Disney knows how to address those needs.
That's a really good one. It's really good, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I don't have anybody with those needs in my circle. You know, knock on wood, we don't have any food allergies or any sort of physical things that we need to be accommodating at all. But I know that for some families, it's so stressful and so overwhelming, and the day-to-day becomes complex enough. And I can imagine that any vacation, Becki, could be complicated to think through and plan. And I would argue that in a case, you know, like with your brother, Disney would be among the most accommodating and the easiest to actually navigate.
Absolutely. Disney thinks through all of these things. They have a plan in place to make accessibility for everybody. When Walt was talking about why he started Disney, right? I'm sure you all know the story of him sitting on the bench and watching his daughters go on the carousel and him feeling like, I want to be able to do a place where I can have fun with my kids. And Disney has that in their core beliefs that everybody needs to be able to participate.
So I can combine thinking it's too expensive with not understanding the low booking risks because the financial aspect of it is so many things. And we can make room for medical needs. Stacy, what do you think?
No, I think that is an excellent point, and you're so right. Disney is helpful. There is no better place to go to reduce some of those concerns with having a good time. Like going to the beach can be an issue for some of these situations. Going to the mountains can be a situation that makes things difficult, but Disney has a way to include everyone, and it's really awesome.
They really do. I mean, food allergies, physical, anything, you know, Disney's going to accommodate. It's such a good one. And you're right. It is a reason people are probably very hesitant. So I think it deserves a spot on the list, but I want to say what my last one was. I think some people aren't booking because they're not using a free travel agent. They're not using what Disney is providing for them for free. The three of us, the whole podcast team, you know, we work for a travel agency. I think that when you have someone in your corner that is an expert, that knows that these things that you're fearful of are A, not only not true, but B, not something to hold you back. And I think when you don't have that person, you're less likely to pull the trigger on your own if you're thinking these things that we've discussed today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that's what we're here for. And the cost is built in. Like it's a no-brainer. How does it fit on our list?
I think it has to be there because
It
I
does.
think we are free. We provide a service. We love doing it. And, I have talked to so many different families where when we start our initial phone call in the morning, let's say, they're like, well, we're just trying to think about it. There's this. And then we talk it through. And by the end of the day, they're booked, and
Mhm.
without me helping guide that conversation, sort of just the way we did on this episode today, but just one-on-one with a family, they probably wouldn't have been booked. And so I think not using your free travel agent is a big one. So I think it has to go on. I think that we're in a little bit of a predicament because our list is pretty good. So we have not learning from a past Disney experience or having an already been there mentality, thinking the planning is just too overwhelming, thinking it's too expensive and not understanding the low booking risk with high reward, letting another person hold you back, thinking you won't be able to enjoy it if you don't ride, thinking your kids are too old or too young, and thinking that a medical need will make it too difficult.
I
They're
think you
all
can put an asterisk beside every single one of those and say, because you didn't have a travel agent helping you.
It's so true. The whole list is all of this exists in your head because you don't have someone helping you. So, Becki, what do you think?
That's kind of where I am as well. Like the answer to these 7 excuses is use a travel agent.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I just want to leave everyone with the understanding that yes, these fears are real. Yes, we totally validate them, but then I want to unvalidate them. You know what I mean? I want to say, I hear you, I see you, I feel you. I don't agree with you, and here's why. So, as long as we're getting that point across, and as long as listeners know that you have an option, you have someone in your corner, you can fill out the link in our show notes, bios, social medias, get connected with a show host. We can help talk your family specifically through these things that we've discussed today and help you figure out what angle makes sense for you when you have any of these concerns or fears.
I'm proud of this list. We did a good job today, ladies.
I hope that, even, more than one family. I hope lots of families listen to this and decide that booking the trip, dragging your feet, it's just not worth it anymore. And that we've convinced you to change your mind. And I hope we hear from you that that's the case because you should never be sneezy when it comes to Walt Disney World.
If there's anything the past few years has taught us is that we don't know what the future holds. So we really just need to enjoy and love the time we have with our family now. Don't wait. We just don't know what the future holds. The time we spend with our families at Disney, it's different from anything else, and it's lifelong.
I agree.
I
I say travel with your family, make the memory, go somewhere where you're taken care of and your kids are taken care of. And for any Smart Moms travel agents listening today, it's the perfect opportunity. The hidden Mickey will be travel. Go to Disney World, do it. You won't regret it. Okay.
love that.
I think it's perfect. I'm very excited. I hope we have wheels turning and, that we can continue this conversation outside of this episode with listeners. Reach out, let us know. Hey, I was thinking like this and now I'm thinking a little differently. And how can I move forward? Because, those are conversations we're always excited to have. That's going to do it for us here on the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast. As always, if you are planning a trip or dragging your heels and now you're thinking of planning a trip, or you are ready to start planning a trip again and you don't already have a Smart Moms travel agent, please take a moment to check out the link in our bio, hit up our show notes, fill out our fast questionnaire, get connected with a free Smart Moms travel agent and podcast show host. We will help you. We'll have the tough conversations, guide your thinking right alongside you, and ease those fears. Be sure that you are joining us on social media at Smart Moms Plan Disney Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, where you can join us every Wednesday for the Happily Ever After show, where we will break down the week's topic together, hear feedback from you. You can join the conversation and we'll just digest this a little more. If you have a fear we didn't mention and you'd like to hear us debunk that one, whatever it is, be sure you join us on Facebook so that we can get into it and maybe prove you wrong. Be sure you are liking and subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. Any listening platform will do, as well as on YouTube at Smart Moms Plan Disney Podcast. And of course, as always, until next time, we'll see you real soon.